next thing we're going to talk about is the different gaps we have, right? So we already talked about, we have price level, we have the real output, we have the aggregate demand, the short run aggregate supply curve, and then we have the long run aggregate supply curve. Now, depending on where the long run is, that tells you where you are in your economy. Whether you are in a recessionary gap, such as this, where your aggregate demand and aggregate supply, the equilibrium, is to the left of your full employment output, you are experiencing a recessionary gap, meaning you have very high unemployment. Okay? So this gap right here, when you are below your potential, this is a recessionary gap. Okay? So what you're going to do for a recessionary gap, aggregate demand, short run aggregate supply curve, this is your equilibrium right here. So then you'll put the long run to the right. So this will be your long run aggregate supply curve. Okay? So this is a recessionary gap. An inflationary gap would be the other way. So this is where your current output is on the right. So now you are above your potential. And since you are above your potential, you are experiencing very high inflation. Okay? So if you're in the inflationary gap, your wages and your input prices are very high. So that is the inflationary gap, where you will have your aggregate demand, short run aggregate supply curve. This is your current output. So then you will do the long run right here. So this would show you you're in the inflationary gap, meaning your output is to the right. Okay. Finally, we have equilibrium, where basically you are at your natural rate. So your current is at your full employment output. So you're in equilibrium. If you're in equilibrium, this means that you are at your potential. And if you are at your potential, and you're at full employment, this means you also have your natural rate of unemployment. And we can measure that by using the Phillips curve. All right, now the Phillips curve is measuring inflation and unemployment. And all it is a downward sloping line, okay? And it's going to tell you what's happening in the economy, all right? If we have an increase in aggregate demand, okay, this is going to increase output. So you're going to have more people working. Unemployment goes down. So therefore, we're going to have a decrease in unemployment. Also, when aggregate demand increases, price level goes up, inflation is higher. So we're going to have a movement from here to here. All right. So that's the Phillips curve. We can also have a change in the short run aggregate supply curve. So if we have an increase in the short run aggregate supply curve, this is going to increase output, decrease unemployment. Also, this is going to decrease the price level, so lower inflation. So we would have a shift to the left on the Phillips curve. And finally, the long run is really where it tells you where you're at. So the long run Phillips curve is a vertical line at the natural rate of unemployment. Prices do not matter in the long run. Okay, that's why it's vertical. This happens at the full employment output. So basically, if you say your economy is currently at point A, this means you're at equilibrium. Because you are at your full employment output, which means you're also at your natural rate. Okay. Now, if the current unemployment is higher than the natural rate, so like this is 5%, and your current is 7, this means you're in a recessionary gap because you have high unemployment. Okay, so therefore, this would be your recessionary gap. So you're in a recession. If you are on this side, meaning your current unemployment is lower than your natural rate, such as 2%, then you would be in the inflationary gap. Okay. So that's what's happening when we're talking about the long run Phillips curve. So if I gave you a point on the Phillips curve and I said you're on right here, then you would be able to know that you're in the inflationary gap, and then you can go from there. Okay. Now, depending on where your economy is, recession or inflationary, that's going to depend, or that's going to dictate your fiscal policy. Remember, fiscal policy, right, is any changes to government spending and taxes. Okay. When we're doing expansionary fiscal policy, that means we're going to increase spending or we're going to decrease taxes. Both of these are designed to increase aggregate demand. Okay. Remember aggregate demand, C plus I plus G plus NX. So more G, more aggregate demand, less taxes, more consumption, more aggregate demand. So during a recessionary gap, you will do expansionary fiscal policy. If you are in the inflationary gap, you're having high inflation, you want to reduce your aggregate demand. How you can reduce your aggregate demand is you can do less government spending or more taxes. But doing both of those things would decrease aggregate demand to the left and get you back to equilibrium. So during a inflationary gap, you should do contractionary fiscal policy. Okay. And all that is less spending or more taxes. Okay. We do have a thing with automatic stabilizers. Remember, these are where the government doesn't do anything new, right? So basically, because you have a higher income, you have to pay higher taxes. Because you have to pay higher taxes, this means your consumption goes down, aggregate demand goes down, right? So the government didn't have to do anything, and aggregate demand would go up. Higher income, higher taxes, lower consumption, lower aggregate demand. So it goes up and back down automatically. We could have a thing with transfer payments, where, remember, transfer payments could be like if you're receiving money for unemployed. So let's say we are in equilibrium and consumers are pessimistic, decreases aggregate demand, unemployment goes up, disposable income is 0, so consumption is 0. But because of the unemployment is going up, the unemployment insurance is going up, so disposable income goes up, consumption goes up, more aggregate demand. Back up automatically. Okay, so these are your automatic stabilizers: progressive taxes, unemployment insurance. Okay. The next thing we learned about was money. Remember, money is anything that satisfies those four functions: medium of exchange, store of value, a system of deferred payment, and medium of exchange, store of value. Oh, what's the other one? Unit of account. Okay, there it is. Okay, remember the unit of account is basically we're using it as a unit. Like if I said you owe me $10,000, we know what that means. Okay, it's a unit that we can use to show prices and debt. So money gets its value from it being accepted from the government, from being scarce. We can use it for different things. Remember, fiat money. What's the value of fiat money? Zero. Money with no intrinsic value. Things like gold and silver, those have a value to them. But paper money has no value. So zero. Value of fiat money, zero. Functions of money, medium exchange, store value, unit of account, deferred payments as well. Basically, I could pay you now or later. Remember, money was broken down into 3 different categories based on their liquidity, how quickly they can be turned into cash. So M1 is going to be everything that is related to cash, coins, saving deposits, right? M2 is going to be relating to M1 plus certificates of deposit, or money market deposits. And then M3 is going to be everything in M2 plus those large time deposits, right? So M1, cash coins, that's the one we're mainly going to be looking at when we look at things like monetary policy. Remember, the Fed is the one that's in charge of the Federal Reserve is the central bank, and they're in charge of the money supply. They are also in charge of issuing currency, setting a reserve requirement, lending money, supervising banks, and controlling the money supply. Okay, so that's what the Federal Reserve is. They are the central bank of the U.S., and they are responsible for these things. So therefore, they are in charge of creating money. How we can create money is through the fractional reserve banking system. So we have our assets and our liabilities. Okay, so our assets are going to be things like required reserves, excess reserves, loans, right? That's what a bank owns. Now, where did the bank get that money? That was going to be from the deposits. So people coming into the bank to deposit money, the bank uses that to make reserves and loans. When they make loans, this increases the money supply. Okay, this increases the money supply because what happens here is we get a deposit and we split it up between the required reserves, the portion you have to keep in the bank vaults, and loans, the money that goes out into the system. Remember that the federal funds rate and the discount rate, that is money that you use to borrow from other banks or borrow from the Fed in order to get more money. Okay. Open market operations, remember that is buying and selling treasury bonds. All of these are monetary policy. So we'll talk about it in a second. We also have the money multiplier. So basically what happens here is because we have a deposit or because we are changing the amount of reserves in the system, this changes the amount of money in the system. So the money multiplier is multiplying money. Okay, so we have an original deposit of 100. We're going to use the money multiplier, 1 divided by the reserve ratio, and that's going to give us a number. So like let's say it was 10% for the required reserve ratio. So our money multiplier is 10. So therefore, if we put in $100, this is going to change and grow to 1,000. So that original $100 changed to 1,000. So our money supply increases by 900. So that's how the money multiplier works. 1 divided by RRR. And this really helps when it comes to monetary policy. So all of these tools right here, these are monetary policy. Okay, reserve requirement, Federal Reserve, federal funds rate, discount rate, and the open market operations. All of those are monetary policy. And the reason we would do expansionary monetary policy is because what's happening is we want to take it from a recessionary gap and we want to expand the economy, right? We want to grow it. Okay? So that is why we do expansionary monetary policy. How this works is when you have more money, so the money supply goes up, you give the banks more loans, so therefore the supply of loanable funds goes up. More loanable funds, interest rates go down. Because interest rates go down, investment goes up. Investment goes up, aggregate demand goes up, price level up, output up. Okay, so that's expansionary monetary policy. We would do contractionary monetary policy because we're in the inflationary gap. And so what you want to do is you want to decrease aggregate demand. So what you'll do is you'll decrease the money supply. This will decrease the supply of loanable funds, increases interest rates, decreases investment, decreases aggregate demand, decreases price level, decreases output. So therefore, decreases aggregate demand. So that's what's happening with an inflationary gap. Okay, we only do that because the inflationary gap, we will do contractionary monetary policy. Okay, so that's what we talk about when we're closing the expansionary and contractionary gaps. Okay, we do have a thing called supply side policies. How these work is that when we want to grow the economy, what we want to do is we want the government to invest in things that like an increase in technology, an increase in physical capital, human capital. By doing those things, that's really going to increase the output for the country. Another way we can do this is by giving an investment tax credit. So basically we say, hey, businesses, if you invest, we'll give you lower taxes. And this works like this. By you investing, increases aggregate demand. By you investing, you have lower taxes. With lower taxes, you can increase the supply. And because you're investing in machines and technology, this could increase the potential. So that's called supply side policies. One of them being investment tax credit. Okay. The last thing we'll talk about are the trading and international trade. So I'll see you there.